Now, before we get all into it, you know what I mean? Like, this is a family event. It's a gang member event, so everybody in here has got to salute. You know what I'm saying? Because this is what we do. We get together every Monday. We get together every Wednesday. We get together every Friday. We load up on Spotify for our people that can't keep up. We're trying to catch you up. And we also, you know what we do? We love everybody. We try to give everybody some, you know what I mean? A little bit of love. And we try to keep the good vibes going because you know what? Anybody can hate. Anybody can be a critic. But you know what? To stay super positive and to bring the heat, that takes talent. Because anybody can report on something that happened 15 years ago. You know what I'm saying? But it takes talent to find something that happened a little bit ago, okay? So before I get into all that and give you my little intro, I want to introduce the most genteel, the most lovely, the most in her phonest, lovingest, Miss Queen of the Dinar. This first lady of the Dinar, they called her.
I gotta scoot over.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Am I hogging the stage? Get in here, girl.
I think it's zoomed in close.
I think it is. I need to.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go. There we go. Okay.
I am April BB.
And I'm not going to yell tonight. I am Mr. Brando. Okay? And welcome to the status of the reinstatement of the Iraqi Dinar IQD chat. Now, if you guys haven't guessed it, what we did was there was an article that came out a couple weeks ago, and I read to you guys. It was called "It's in the Exchange, Sir," or something like that, right? And so I read that article, and even me, I read articles, and you know, I give bombs. So I'm looking for the hot thing. Like, I'm looking for things that nobody else is seeing, things that nobody else is picking up on. I'm like, oh, that's a bomb. That's a bomb. I put it in my mind. I digest it. I put it in there so I come up with an idea. You know what I'm saying? So, boom. I read it, and I never thought about it, right? Uh-huh. So you see the thumbnail for it, right? And then all of a sudden, I'm going through some articles. And granted, it was 2 months ago that this event happened, right? Mm-hmm. But I would ask everybody, where were you 2 months ago, like on the second day? Because that is as pertinent to this interview as anything. Because that article that came out days later. But what was truly important about it was a guy named Dr. Mohammed Dagher gave an interview. And when I tell you I missed this, you talk about whiff, I whiffed it.
You whiffed it?
Oh yeah, I missed this. Because there are only 1,200 streams on this Iraqi news. And I played it on my stream. Nobody watched it, right? Everybody looked at it and was like, blah, blah. I put the censors out there. I was like, please, could you help me transcribe this? And so I got with the Kangaroo Gang. Uh-huh. And I knew that if I transcribed it by myself, it would be biased, right? You know my rule. You got to get 3 sources. So I got 4 people on opposite coasts and 2 in the middle to help me transcribe this. And I transcribed it myself at work on Tuesday. It took me half a day. Again, Miss Beauty's going to beat me for not selling nothing. But I had to get this information for you guys because I thought it was ultimately important, okay? Uh-huh. So I took my reading, I read it, and then I read everybody else's. I didn't change what they wrote. All I did was formulate it into ideas that I thought were pertinent to what we're doing. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. The project is called The Deletion of the 3 Zeros and The Raising of the Value of the Iraqi Dinar. They don't give a rate, they don't give a date. But this guy gives an in-count detailed report. Now, to give you guys the skinny, I have to read you 3 versions of everybody's thing to give you 3 perspectives, because when you're doing Google Translate, literally you're sitting in front of an iPad or a computer with a phone or some type of device, and you're hitting play and then you're hitting record. And what happens is it spits out so many words and it plays, right? Now, how you know it all goes together, because when I read the reports to you, the things that are highlighted, they all jive, right? And so some things don't. You know that's where the translation, where either you had to stop it, the translation messed up, because Google Translation is not exact. You can't exactly depend on it. You kind of got to use your gray matter, right, to kind of fill in the blanks, to think what they're kind of saying, even if you don't truly believe it, right? Because some things they're saying are like truly outlandish, and some things they're saying are like, okay, there are no girl parties, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's some really, really weird things. Girl parties. Yeah, and one of these things it says a party for girls. Like, I have no idea what they're talking about, but I know that's a translation error based upon Google, right? It's not the Arabic, it's the Google. So don't take this as gospel, but take this as 3 accounts of the same interview from Professor Dr. Mohammed Dagher. May God bless you. He is the Financial Operations Department at the Central Bank. And may they keep you safe and welcome. Now, in this interview, about a couple minutes into it, they give his credentials, tell you about blah, blah, blah. And he says, the timing of this verse is temporarily installed. The public is the first file. We try to deliver it because to delete the 3 zeros from the Iraqi currency to know its implications. That's in the first 3 minutes. Okay? Now, the second file. That where they talk about the general overview, the concept of introducing it to the public. Mm-hmm. And from there, they give the example of Qatar, where they go to exchange currency because they have a little bit better exchange rate. I believe Qatar's currency right now is about 27 cents. Not saying that's the rate. I'm just saying they go to Qatar and exchange their dinar to get more out of it. You see what I'm saying? Right. Now, they say the most gracious, the most merciful, my love. Second edition is the forbidden, meaning it's an economic measure. Economic changes. Rather, it is targeted, I would say intentional. Now, unless the amount of money changes, most of them will not be affected by accounting, only the public. Now, that's Arabic for, think about this. Unless the amount of money changes, meaning the value of the dinar changes, most of them will not be affected by accounting, only the public. I mean, if you move a few decimal points, it doesn't really matter because only the public will be affected by that, not accounting, because they're taking those measures into account. Does that make sense? They're planning on that, and I'll show you how they are. Now, they say singers. Singers like Pepsi, or I'm saying like, it says singers? It says singers. Now you gotta understand, this is a translation, so it's not perfect. So you gotta kind of understand, we're gonna talk about this together. This is one version. Okay. Singers in Pepsi are in million. So if purchasing power and the amount of money will change for that reason.
Stock in Pepsi. So remember, I read that report from that funds manager today. Mm-hmm. I should have brought the report up here. I did a total breakdown on that report. And that Iraqi fund manager, he had a portfolio, IIPI. Mm-hmm. Remember I told you that? Mm-hmm. And basically one of the stock that sat in the portfolio that's on the ISX is Pepsi. Holla. Okay, go ahead.
Now you gotta understand this interview happened 2 months ago, okay? Mm-hmm. He says, I am after the leaders, aiming to influence the psychological side. So you say, well, okay, they talk a little bit about the psychological, but it's gibberish on this one. He says, for printing companies in the world are the ones that print the Iraqi currency, devoid our eyes. So what he's saying is, there are printing companies in the world that print the currency, but we can't see it. Our eyes are not able to see that, right? Mm-hmm. Because they don't have that public to them just like we don't. When it comes out, right?
Right.
Now, what is required to change? These require preparations that require funds that require preparation for the process of coexistence between two currencies. These of our time to enter and into the old grace. Remember what I told you guys a long time ago? When the Iraqi dinar reinstates, the old currency will coexist with the new currency for 10 years. That says it right there.
Oh, I want to go run and get that paper.
Don't get it.
Why?
Because it's new right now. There's more.
Okay, go ahead.
But at the same time, it is easy to settle transactions altogether. I mean from the process of settling mathematical transactions. Kuwait. If it's in dollars and you owe them a certain amount of dollars, you're not fractionalizing off of for every dollar it's $1,190. For every dollar, that's a dollar for dollar. You can make settlements more easy. A support of the topics, experiences, and infrastructure. The central bank people...
We just went offline for some reason.
We did?
It says live stream offline.
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay, all right.
It's spinning. Stream resumed. Okay. I think we're back.
So you gotta check your stream. Are we going?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me stop because all of this is very important because it paints a picture of what's happening. Can you scroll down to the bottom and tell me where they didn't hear it from?
They just said they were back. I mean, I don't know exactly. It stopped for a minute. It's like a minute.
Okay. Okay, I'll read this part again.
Oh, yeah.
A supporter of this topic, experience, and infrastructure, the central bank, people forging to from globally accepted indicators to the currency, multiple currencies, small coins, I mean small transactions.
And Guillermo said you stopped at the last bomb as soon as you hit the bomb.
Good. Okay, so that's the next bomb, okay?
Okay.
So you guys caught that, right? The process means of okay, hold on. The supporter of the topic, experience and infrastructure, the central bank, people forging to from globally accepted indicators to the currency, multiple currencies, small coins, I mean small transactions.
You're experiencing an interruption again.
I'm being interrupted again?
Yeah, so you might have to.
I might have to do bombs.
You might have to get the last bomb you just did again.
Okay. It's spinning. I think we need more Wi-Fi.
I know.
Huh?
I agree. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I think
Are we back?
we're back.
Did everybody hear that last one?
I do the last one again.
Okay. A supporter of this topic, experience and infrastructure, the central bank, people forging to, from globally accepted indicators to the currency, multiple currencies, small coins, I mean small transactions. This process means of deleting the zeros and heading to the currency. This means what is the relationship between the process in solving the problem of different rating operations and cutting operations that are possible. Okay? He says, he goes on to state about the inflation, about how the inflation will be affected by the NAR, but because I don't have enough enough evidence there, I'll read it back. But he goes on to say the psychological aspect ends with the decision to distribute the currency and replace it with all the work and of the course the currency exchange has a positive effect. Sometimes what we got is the operation of the bills is to open the piggy banks because we do not know what Iraq holds. Now, that made no sense. I don't know why I read that, but that was crazy. Okay. Now, he goes on. He says, doctor, on the topic of stock loans, blah, blah, blah. And he says, this grant does not include the management of new central bank, the approach of the new direct monetary policy. Now, why would he go back and reference the monetary policy as being changed? That's a difference. Do you see what I'm saying? Why would he reference that? He says the grant does not include the management of the new central bank, the new approach of the new direction of the monetary policy. There's a new monetary policy that's about to take place. This scholarship is the new central bank, the approach or the new direction, unconventional monetary policy. It talks about the productive sector. This 5 was joined of the concerned members. The central bank and the financial and the specialized banks that mediate the implementation of the initiative and the committee is called the Grandfather Al-Ghaffar Al-Rahim. Now, you go down a little bit further, he talks about interest. He says, we turn the interest into same currencies to dinar that exceed one time only 13% of the central bank's commissions. As you know, the money, the people's money, means the central bank deals with the people's money. Keep it because it directly affects him, giving it as it is the market going down and up and leading in the ninth direct on the request of foreign currency investment. So what does that sound like? Stocks. It sounds kind of like what they're saying basically is, if they stabilize the exchange rate, right, and the commissions that the bank will make off of the foreign investment will help fuel the bank's money supply, right, and giving it a market to go up and down based upon foreign investment. Now, he said the Iraqi marketplace is in financing. We are wrong to not accept. We funded the use of the value of the Iraqi dinar, meaning the original target is the added value. And it does not only benefit funds to promote, and it clicks off. The university professors is qualified also financial analyst, and real analyst means excellent. The problem of definition, the industrialists will not stop a lot when they see the entry of goods from borders, unpacking the file from what affects them and their time right now. Now, what that means is they're trying to put a hold on the industrialism. So they're trying to get people in Iraq to build stuff. Do you see what I'm saying? They got to get agriculture going. I told you they had to get industry going. If they get those two things popping and going well, then their economy can kind of start booming because that's a self-sustained private sector. You see what I'm saying? But they need to get money injected in those infrastructures so that they can get those enterprises started. So when you see all these things about small and medium enterprises, this is what he's relating it to, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, in 2020, who is with me? More? Okay. What is the interest in reducing interest? Do not exceed 4% interest. The duration of lending is 10 years, but 5 million temporary stop industrial, is it stop industrial agriculture, housing is ongoing almost felt central bank. 245 workshops, top initiative. They tell you that all the time. They got to start having business and housing. Dude, this guy's giving you the blueprint for what they're doing. This happened 2 months ago before the protest started. Do you not see? This guy's telling you the tale. Now, there's more. He says, foreign transfers or the development of foreign trade, and we will, God willing, have money. We do not give in to what corresponds to the dinar and the dinar. So let it be known, the law is transferable. He said the dinar is a dinar. Now, later on, they're going to reference the dinar being equal to $1 or greater. You see what I'm saying? They're saying now that the dinar is a dinar. It's not $11.90. You get what I'm getting at right now? To dissect this, you understand that they've always thought the dinar held a nominal value. This is not old news. This is not new news. This has always been the news. Forget everything else. Forget what's going on in the news. This guy's telling you right now that these are the things that they were doing now, right? Now, I think the demonstrations and the protests were planned because they didn't enact this plan. I'll interject right there, okay? That's a stopping point. Okay. Now listen to this. We do not give the first dollar, receive and correspond to the dinar. And the dinar is a sale that becomes known to the law. They're basically saying the dinar is going to be the dollar, and that will be the law. You see what I'm saying? They're getting to it. If we receive correspondence that the dinar is a dinar, let it become known according to the law, it is transferable. Whoever has a dinar, he owns the dollar of Islamic jurisdiction, Bahrain's and our souls. I could stop right now. I could literally stop right now. Dude, I'm getting goosebumps. I haven't gotten to the second part yet. This is the first part. The second jurisprudence rules, the dollar informs the dollar is the dinar. The second jurisprudence rules, the dollar informs the dollar is the dinar. The simple sale is unconditional from the currency. Now, the Ministry of Finance gives us dollars. If we don't have anything, we have dollars. So, from dinars to the budget, every time I get acquainted with the new monetary issue, I arrived on monetary block with maintain the strength of the Iraqi currency. Think about that. What he said was every time they talk about the dollar, it has strength, right? Mm-hmm. So when they talk about going back and implementing monetary policy, they think of it with that same monetary strength. That a dinar is a dinar. Okay? From the dinar, operations before the occasion, how much is the dollar? All airports procedures after making all alike. Now they're saying again, if you make all the currency alike within trading value, now you have a currency that holds strength. And because of the psychological values that it held that he talked about earlier, people don't see it as an embarrassment by erasing those zeros. They see it as a strength. Okay? This is episode 2. It says, blah, blah. He says the first part of this is one of the 3 zeros from the Iraqi currency's known implications. Try to take a pedestal service in loans. Domain stretch. Look for loans. Payments first, settle on transactions. Dinar first. Inflation is the case, dimensions, operations, expensive. They're different, and the distance without what I mean is the relationship to the dinar. The money supply does not change, but that is, it reduced the zeros. The money supply doesn't change, that is, it reduced the zeros. That constant, that is the reduction of zeros, does not change the amount of money in circulation. I'm not lying. It's right there. I'll post this. Dude.
So this all came through translation in that interview.
Yep. Now it says children, unless the amount of money changes, will not be affected. Right? They won't be. I know it sounds trivial, but it makes sense. Children, unless the amount of money changes, will not be affected. Unless you change the money amount, the citizens will not be affected. The cash supply remains on the cash side. That means the rate of inflation in the case of payment operations, and these are different. Display the change. Inflation is the constant, that is the reduction of zeros. He's saying it right there. To reduce the inflation, you got to reduce the zeros. Okay? Mm-hmm. What does that mean? Fighting the crooks. Fighting the crooks. In the event of increasing various economic operations, after what that I mean, Iraq women. Now, earlier today, everybody wants to know what the hang-up on the election law is. The hang-up on the election law is simply this. They got to put women in parliament. That's it. They have to put women in parliament and empower women to hold parliamentary seats and be a part of the government and have full rights as the men. That's what they're arguing over right now. It's not that they're arguing over the PM. The PM's going to get there eventually. But what they're trying to get is more women involved in the political side of the Iraqi GOI. Because that's what the world wants to see. And that gets them on the stage to being equal with the world. Okay? Mm-hmm. Deleting the zeros affects inflation. I'll read that again, sorry. Deleting the zeros affects inflation. It affects the monetary mass, and it does not affect it because each year for one of its equivalent, but without their net that. Now, that is really gibberish, but what they're saying is if you delete the zeros of inflation, it's year to year, so it won't really affect the year-to-year differences. But the equivalences will balance out by year to year. So the net equivalent of the dinar will remain the same. Inflation will change. Our dollar is a dollar in this country, but inflation every year might change a couple points. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll read you the last part, okay? This is the last translation, and then I'll surmise. I'm keeping y'all late. I'm sorry, y'all.
But you know, that makes sense. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. What's your question?
No, it makes sense. Go ahead. Because what I had to say was trivial. Inflation varies, but go ahead.
This is the last one I want to read you guys because this is cleaned up. So we read the header about God bless you, you're the manager. It says, for the year, and it says now 2013, trying to delete the 3 zeros from the Iraqi currency to know its implications. The timing of this verse is temporarily stalled. The public is the first file. We try to deliver it, but deleting the 3 zeros from the Iraqi currency to know its implications. Second file. The first part, let me take a general idea and concept of the party. Why do some countries go to Qatar to compensate? And they said issue Qatar because it's 27 cents. Now, they said the second edition is forbidden, meaning that in economic measures, economic changes, rather it is targeted. Facilitate high accountability to influence the parties, account settlements, the first settlement of transactions. I wish for some other things. Fix this, you change the amount of money. Now, if you don't get the gist of this over and over and over again, the gist of this is you have to change the money to change their psychology and to change the ideas or the psychological aspects of having these huge bills, because they think it's having big faces. You see what I'm saying? But it's not. It's a detriment to what they're doing. And they've been trying to actually implement this and insert it since 2013, but they didn't have the laws or the policy in place to actually implement it now. That's why I don't care what Dr. Shabibi said 10 years ago. He couldn't have pulled it off. You'd have went to the bank and it'd have been just like Zimbabwe, your currency would be worthless. Because they couldn't sustain monetary policy unless they had physical policy to substantiate the actual realistic value of the dinar. That is truth. Okay? Now, I'm trying to think of the next part I want to read you guys before I close this out. Okay, we'll skip that. They stress this one more time. The Iraqi market is financing. We need to accept the concept. We funded the use of the value of the dinar, meaning the original target is the added value, and it does not only mean the benefit for funds, but to promote citizens. Okay? Now, I told everybody, do you guys really want to know what the hold up to everything that's happening right now?
Of course.
I'll be honest with you, and I'll read it to you.
Yes.
I'll tell everybody honestly what the real hold up. It's not corruption. It's not Iran. It's not anything. It's one person.
One person.
One person is holding up the whole reinstatement of the Iraqi dinar. And then I'll take some questions.
And who's that one person?
Young Iraqi protesters spoke Rudwall in Baghdad Square last week said they are losing faith in country's top Shiite religious authority, Grand Ayatollah Ali al-Sistani. See,
so it's Sistani.
Sistani's the holdup. Because when Sistani spoke, Mahdi resigned. Sistani's not come out and said enact the monetary reforms. Mm-hmm. If he simply just said that one statement, it would happen. But he hasn't blessed it or encouraged it to happen. Now, he's going to do it. He's going to pressure policy to make it happen. But that's what's going on, why things haven't moved in the fashion that we want to see them move. For every day that Sistani doesn't open his mouth, it gives the GOI one more day to stall, to pass laws, or do whatever they're doing on the back end before Sistani gives his blessing to the monetary reform. Okay. Now, you're going to say to me, Mr. B, you're full of crap. How do you know that? And I'm going to tell you how I know that is simply like this. Everybody wants to do business with Iraq because Iraq is rich in minerals, in resources, and in wealth. It doesn't matter to a certain extent what their note count is, because you know that demand deposit says that everything that's been purchased doesn't mean it has to be deposited. This doesn't have to be sinister. It doesn't have to be some political espionage or some grand scheme. It can simply be a couple easy things, such as policy, trade, and economics. Now, I understand the note count is way high, but you got to understand, when they deem those bills damaged, those are not direct deposit, or they're not deemed depositable. You see what I'm saying? Those bills are being destroyed. So when people tell me the note count's too high, you don't know what the note count is, because you know what? Even China lies about their note count. Mm-hmm. So why would Iraq tell the truth? They're way smaller than China. And China has like the second best economy in the world. So don't tell me that these countries are honest about their note counts. Now, last thing I want to leave you guys with this. How I know Iraq is the bomb place to do business. For the first time in many years, the United States of America started loaning money out to the Kurdistan region. Now, why would the United States of America, with all the money it could loan anybody, loaned the Kurdistan region, one of the most oil richest places in the whole world, money if this country was failing with a zero sum total of its currency. Okay? I leave you with that. And that, my friends, is the real news.
John wants to know, did Mr. B see or hear about lower denominations, i.e. commercials in Iraq? No.
Not at all. I haven't heard of any commercials, or I ask people every day. I've got people that are all over the countryside, and I ask them all the time, could you please tell me if there are any lower notes available that I can see a picture of, or a billboard, or a commercial, snap a picture, anything. And none of them can ever do it. Sistani is an Iranian. What people don't understand is Sistani is the Grand Ayatollah over the whole Shiite Muslim faith. You kind of think about this. He's like the Pope of Islam, where he is, right? Mm-hmm. If Sistani waved his hand, it'd be over. Forget politics. It all roots back to religion. That's why I said they're trying to become federalist. If they were a federal government, they'd separate church and state, and therefore they could act independently. Use church as a moral compass, use the actual federal state to rule the country, and then they'd be successful. People don't get that. It's the same thing here. You have to have a separation of church and state. That's just the way life works. When this guy, and I'm going to do a Patreon probably tomorrow about this, and I'll go more into depth. Join Patreon. He mentions lower coins. He mentions the coins. He mentions lower denominations. He mentions trying to launch it on certain days. And I'm going to read it on there. Yeah, I am. I'm going to read it on Patreon.
Sistani is stalling for laws to be passed.
That's right. Sistani's in cahoots with the government, and that ain't far-fetched. Because Sistani says, I'm not politically involved in anything. So who's to say that the president, Saleh, doesn't go over and say, give me a few more minutes. Give me a few more time. I need a little bit more time to get these laws passed. That's what's happening. Ain't no Trump pulling the strings behind anywhere. There's no sinister plan. There's no dark man behind the veil. The whole thing's about religion and politics still. Now, with the U.S. putting sanctions on those Iranian militias, it doesn't stop movement, but you know what it does? It stops the movement of money. And that's why I tell you guys all the time, I'm not a proponent of cryptocurrency, but you know what I'm a proponent of? It's blockchain. And since you don't have access to SWIFT, therefore you don't have access to your money in the United States. Check and mate. I don't need to talk about anything else. If you don't got money, you don't got nothing.
Don't make dollars, it don't make sense. Let me see.
It's simple when you really think about it.
I think that's it. That's it, Mr. B.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Any more questions?
Questions.
Can I get a thumbs up, a like, support the channel. Please go out. Our Spotify's in the description. Please go out and enjoy.
It will be in the description.
It will be soon. It's Mr. Brando's podcast on Spotify. Catch the old links, catch the new links. Just go out and support the channel. Join Patreon. Shout out to all the new Patreon members. We had like 20 new members in the last month. Everybody wants to learn how to join, get wealth, how to join, build your wealth. Not only be, a millionaire, but when you have millions, how do I become a billionaire? That's why I call myself a multiplier. Everybody we help, they multiply. And I mean that in a generous way. If you have a closed fence, you can't get a blessing. You got an open hand, you can receive a blessing. And with that, y'all, you know what? I'm telling you guys, thank you for tuning in.